Alrighty. So, hello there. Can you hear me? Just making sure. Just put it on the side so I'll be here. Alright. Just making sure. Can you hear me? I think it's supposed to be running smoothly, but I want to make sure that it's fine. Just take a minute. I'll write it down just in case. Do. Very glad that I finally figured out how to go live and how to activate the stream. These technical thingies. Okay. Just taking a look at the streaming. Okay, excellent. Thank you for the update. So, hello there. Welcome to the second art live stream of Planet Defense. Let's start this with a yay. All right. So, thank you very much. Yeah, I like the llama too, actually. Let's okay, so thank you very much for coming, anyone who's taken the time to watch this, and anyone who will take the time to watch this later. Let's get into it. A few general notes. The connection in here can sometimes be laggy, so I'm sorry if there's a bit of a delay or I'm talking and it takes some time to get through to the vid. And the other thing is that sometimes will take some time to concentrate, and that might be a bit quiet, but feel free to ask me questions in the Q&A. I'll try to reply and to, in general, give notes about like my thought process and everything that comes around it as I work. And with that, let's get to work. So what I'm going to do today, last time that I was here in the previous stream, and I'll probably do it again when there is a bit more of a crowd and a bit more of a schedule, regular schedule, is that I'll do the same process of creating the animals from scratch. But right now, I want to work on taking one of the animals and preparing it for animation. Now, luckily, the animation in Planet Defense is very, very simple. It might look very bouncy and like effective, but it is still a very simple type of animation. So it's not a very complex cutout, and it's actually a very good introduction to the entire concept. So, with that in mind, I'll give you a minute and I'll ask you which animal, except for the first two, because they're already animated and all, would you like to see prepared for animation? So, take a moment to think. Personally, I thought either the lion or the llama. So, feel free to take a pick. Just give you a minute. I hope that there's not too much of a lag. I'll take a sip of my coffee in the meantime. Like the llama, but the lion could be cool. Alrighty then. So you know what? Let's see how much we can pull off. I'll go with you, and I'll start with the llama, actually. I thought I started with the lion previously, but I do love the llama as well, and it can be a very good practice. And on the way, we will see also how I take a design and I improve it if necessary. Because that's part of the process when I'm preparing creatures for animation. Then a lot of the time I spot little mistakes, little tweaks and stuff that I can do and improve. So let's go with the llama. Thank you for your choice. All right. So the first thing I do is actually very, very technical. Because I'm working in Photoshop and I do like to be orderly, then I take everything that has to do with the llama, this folder in here, and I turn it into Smart Object. Smart Object basically means that I'm taking like all bits and layers and stuff in Photoshop, and I'm turning it into this little sub Photoshop file that I can play around inside, and it won't be such a mess like if I would do another thing in here. I'll demonstrate it. It sounds more complex than it is. So I right click on the folder and I click on Convert to Smart Object. Right? Alright, cool. Now, not much has changed except for the gray part on the bottom. Let's do a revert just so you see how it changes. Because in a Smart Object, there's no layer modes. All the layers in Photoshop has this layer mode that you can play around. I talked about it in the previous stream a bit, and it's something that really helps with shading. But since it's like an entire folder in itself, an entire file in itself, then it doesn't have this. Again, sounds more complex than it is, but now let's take a look inside. Double click, and we have the llama. Now the llama is separated into something that is completely independent from the previous animals. Now, because I'm not going to mess around with this too much just like this, because this will affect like the folder that the entire file that I took it from, I'm going to save this as a different object, a different file. Keep messing around with objects and files, all the terminology. Let's go to Planet Defense, Character, Animals. Let's create the llama. Each animal has its own folder for now. Maybe I'll do like certain specific files as I continue. But right now, it's enough for me. We'll save this as llama 01. Again, order. Order is good. So, for starters, just to make sure that I'm not bugged by the squares, just created this color, just a solid in the background. That makes the job much easier for me. Okay, so what we have right now is just a drawing. Nothing is ready for animation in this. The best thing that I can do to move this around is just like squash and stretch it and move it to the sides. But it doesn't serve all the function that I need. I need the head to be separated. I need it to like move its feet around. It's gonna spit because it's a llama and what not. So what I'm gonna do like this, let's write in general. How does this work? So the method that I created so far is it's a bit how do I say? I want to say Sisyphean, but I'm not sure that it's like a good word to use. It's a bit heavy labor, but still it works very efficiently to preserve the entire quality of the drawing and the painting. So the first thing I do is that I let's see. By the way, an important note, there is definitely a shot that even though I did this quite a few times, there will be trial and error. So, so you might see me do a little bit of a back and forth during the process. So what I'm going to do is, in general, I want to preserve the drawing. Let's do this little list. Preserve. So I want all the qualities that we have right now to overall be maintained. I want it to move its limbs slash big parts, and just let's do a tiny bit of a checklist so you'll see what I mean. I'm talking about everything that is like very large and there's a good shot that it will move. Let's see, the neck, all the neck region, all this. Oh, hello there, Buck. And thank you very much. So, let's see. I really like the full name, by the way, Saturday Morning Cartoon Apocalypse. Like, it's a very long username. So, we have this, we have the body, and then we have the legs. All right, and the tail. Now, as you saw, I didn't separate all the little parts yet. Oh, I get it. SEO. All right, makes sense. So, as you noticed, I separated the head, but I didn't talk about the eyes or something because I noticed that sometimes it's a bit like there's no reason to separate them completely, so long as you keep the animation simple. You can draw a replacement, which is something that I will talk about as I continue. But for now, let's take this out. I wanted to show a few of the things. Preserve the quality of the drawing. I want to separate it to like limbs and big parts. And I want it to be relatively simple, but flexible. It kind of goes with the entire concept of separating to limbs, but not stressing yourself too much with all the little parts. It's very easy when you're thinking about animation. It happened to me a lot when I was beginning to think that every tiny bit needs to move a lot, and you need to be capable of moving the nose and moving the eyes, and everything needs to be like crazy. But you will see that it can actually be very, very simple but effective. Next time that I will do a stream, I'll try to go into Spine and teach some of the methods. But right now, today, I just want to focus on preparing a character for animation. I want to go step by step on the entire thing. And okay, so with that, let's start. The first thing I do is actually, instead of just using the folder right now, it doesn't really help me the way that it's situated. Right now there is like, I'll show you, like I'll deconstruct how it looks right now, and then let's see what's the best method of creating different parts, at least the methods that I found out so far. So let's see all the layers. This is something that apparently I don't need. So we have all the things that have to do with color. See, we just have the line art, colored line art, and all these colors, the shading colors, and then a bit of an overlay. Okay. Animation always makes my brain die. Let's see, step by step. Yes, animation can be terrifying, actually. So I absolutely understand. And I'm happy to demonstrate it. It's kind of half exciting, half scary for me, because it's a process that is actually so full of trial and errors. Plus, like the previous stream, I didn't do this in a while. It's not that I didn't animate in a while. I didn't do like the systemized method of taking an animal or taking a human or taking a whatnot and separating it to parts. So there, like I said, there was a good shot that there will be a bit of trial and error in here, but it's fine. I'm learning just as much as you. So So like I said, the current way that the layers are organized, there's no separation or nothing, and it doesn't help me. It helped me creating a good, like a simple and effective drawing that like I understood all the parts. But now I want to separate the parts, so we're gonna start from the ground up with every part. It goes a bit like this. So I'm creating, I'll take this and I'll duplicate it. Okay. Drag this in here. I created the copy. Why did I do this? This I'll call backup. This is just in case. Let's do this with a red color, the red tint, just to make sure that I don't touch this. And I locked it by pressing the dot or the question mark thingy. This, I want to make sure in case I screw up the file or anything, then this will be very healthy. This will help me like maintaining the original, just in case I want to go a step back or whatnot. And with what I did, I'm gonna do the following. This I turn off. I don't need it. I'm gonna create this again, a smart object. Smart object within a smart object. It's like it's a mess. Oh, the only thing that I will take out, actually, because I really don't need it, is the shadow. Shadow will have its way to be separated. But right now, what I want to do is just to take it out because it's already separated, actually, unlike all the other parts. This is just, I can move, and that's enough. Don't need anything besides that. So I'm going to take this outside. Let's give this a color, just in case. I don't always go with the colors, but I want to work like extra orderly right now to make sure that it's very communicative to you as well. And also take the sketch layer. I'll take it off. Taking things that I don't need and just getting them out of the way, just to make sure that it's like doesn't bother me. And now I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna create a smart object, llama. Alrighty. Now let's talk a bit about what I'm gonna do and also the way I think in order to do that. So what I want to do, let's see, animation, thumbnail. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this, and each time I'm gonna duplicate it in a specific way that allows me to create multiple copies and still get it. There is a function here called new smart object via copy. Means I will duplicate it, it will maintain all its features, and I can manipulate it on the inside, etc., and it won't affect all the other copies. Photoshop has some pretty advanced and awesome functions that are a bit tricky to explain a lot of the time. It's like you'll see how it works. It's like a very smart version of a copy. And every time I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to mask all the things that I don't need. When I go, and I'm going to do this for each and every part. The moment that I finish duplicating each part, I'm going to go back and see how it affected the drawing. I'm going to think about the order things are layering on top of each other, because this is a cutout animation, like things overlap, and like Photoshop, it's in layers. And I'm going to complete it accordingly. And additionally, I'm trying to think a bit about how this little thingy is going to move. So soon I'll get to the meat of it. Sorry if I'm taking a bit of time. I hope that the explanation is at least a bit cool or enlightening for you as well. So it's a big fluffy thingy, right? And the legs are small. They're not something that like you won't see it striding all over, like taking these big gaps. Doesn't make a lot of sense. So I imagine it like either walking very passively, like these small strides. Looks a bit like an anteater. Or even better, it's actually it's very much in the theme of the game. All the animals and all the things are a bit silly. It's gonna be a bit like a bit bouncy. So every time it'll be like down and up. And it will do like a hop and a bop. It will like a bit like a bouncing ball with a neck. And it will be cute, it will be funny, and it will work to our advantage. So, and the second thing it's gonna do, the main thing it's gonna do, is spitting, because that's the way it attacks. It's a ranged unit. So, if it spits, we're gonna have like this ball, thinking again the simplest of shapes and thumbnails. And I'm thinking that the entire thing will go like a bit back. All this will be like a bit. And then it will be like this. It might even raise the legs a bit. Like to feel the impact of it all. Right. And then also we'll keep the bounciness we're talking about. And for this, for the spitting part specifically, I know that I will need to draw a replacement. And replacement means a different head. Thank you. It really helps to think of these things in a very, very simple manner, like as simple as you can. So yeah, just you think about the motion more than how it actually looks, and that's why I do it like in such a simple version. We'll try to pay attention to the other concepts. It's very possible to like think in a smart method or plan out accordingly to what you need. So let's start getting into the meat of it. Do this. I don't need the thumbnails right now. Now, what we're gonna do is this. Let's make a new copy. Here, right click, smart object. I want to work on the head. This thing will be the head. Cool. And now, I'm gonna go on the inside and and this might look a bit strange to you, but check it out. Let's one of the brushes. It really doesn't matter so long as it's a round, hard brush overall. What I'm gonna do in here is I'm gonna use a mask, which is something that hides a bit of the drawing in a non-destructive manner. I'm gonna sort of erase a lot of what's going on here. Okay, now remember that this isn't a copy. This doesn't affect the original file, which means that worst case scenario, a good concept to take about the entire thing is work as non-destructively as you can. Because there is a good chance that there will be errors and bugs and I don't know, an anvil will fall on your computer and you will find yourself in an absolute mess. So try to preserve the original stuff as much as you can. And we have a head. I use the cropping just to make the entire thing smaller. let's do a tiny bit of a cleanup, and then let's go back to the original file and see what's going on in there. Okay, I want to go to like, it's okay, we can have a barbecue in a short time. A lamacue, if you will. I swear to God, one day the game will actually affect my diet, and I will eat my words. Okay, so we're gonna do something like this, and I'm gonna go on a hunch here. I'm gonna separate it to something that is a bit like what we had in here, like the hair method thing, the pattern of the hair. Hi there, Josh. Sash Lilac, the half water dragon video game character? Actually, no. I never heard of it. If you wanna post a link or something, then I would love to hear about it. Right. So let's save this. And let's go back and see what do we got. Interesting. So we got a head floating around the thing, and if I would post it in here, then it's exactly the same head. Doesn't affect anything. How peculiar. But now you see that it looks exactly the same. We preserved all the quality. What we can do now is repeat the same process with the other parts. Alrighty. Now, this is a bit repetitive, but repetitive is more or less the name of the game in animation. Hi Josh, I'll look up the character after the stream, but right now you are more than welcome to stick with us and see how I prepare this little llama thingy to animation. So let's go for the neck. Basically, it's the same thing. I'm trying to think of all the volume of the neck. Now you might see something a bit strange. Now let's do this in a smart and a bit of a cleaner method. Let's use a pen tool to create curves. All right. Now this entire thingy you will see that I'm capturing also parts of the head. And why is that? When I'm gonna move the character in the cutout method, then like I said, a lot of things are overlapping. Because they overlap, I need to make sure that when I move the head, I see what's going on behind the head as well. Like, so for example, now I'm gonna cut some bits of the body in here. And it's overlapping with the body, the neck. And why is that? Because when I will move the neck, I will see the body as well. You will see it all makes sense in a moment. A lot of the things I'm trying to explain and words don't do justice with the entire method. So sorry if sometimes it's a bit tricky. Oh, wait a minute. Not bad. Right. Now, let's make this a selection. Now, if I do a mask, I do it only on the outside. But if I inverse this with Control-Shift-I, then boom, only a neck. You will see what I'm doing, by the way, very soon. After I finish separating the parts, you will see how I go about painting them to make sure that they blend with the rest of the body. Okay, sweet. So we have a neck. Let's go back. Yeah, masks. The entire thing about masks is that they're a very good method of preserving original drawings. It's like I said, it's a non-destructive way to erase things. You don't always need it, but when you can use it, it's very useful. Okay, let's put it in the same spot that it was. It's very good for us to say like organized. Now let's see. We put on the head, have the neck. Let's try to move it around. This will give you a glimpse as to what's gonna happen. Okay, we have a beginning. Let's continue. This might repeat itself a bit. Like I said, excuse me. Let's push on. All right, so we do a mask again. We create a path. And we erase the rest. I have a feeling that when I did the llama, I already took into account where I wanted the neck to end, and I didn't do it. Or I didn't do it consciously at the very least right now. So we'll take a look. This works. All right. Let's, okay. Good enough. Let's just make this a bit cleaner, a bit more round. And ready. Good enough. Next selection. A lot of the time, there's a good chance in the streams that you will hear me say the words good enough. Because funny enough, it's one of the things that really were on my mind when I started to do Planet Defense. I wanted to create characters that I will have a lot of fun to draw, but they will also be very simple for me. And the same goes for the animation, because I'm the only artist as of now on the game. Then I wanted to make the process very simple, simple as I can. So with that in mind, a lot of the times I like say, you know what, this is fine, this is okay. Let's not go in crazy, because there's so many more of this to do. Super important animating too. Well, sometimes yes, and sometimes not so much. I love deleting my stuff. Okay, yeah. Clean line art is actually not. I wouldn't say it's the most crucial thing. You can see a lot of beautiful animations that are very messy, because the most important thing I would say in oh, wait a minute. Just notice a bit of a thingy in here. I would say that the most important thing in animation is the motion, but in cutout animation, it's very, very good to just have very clean shapes and blocks to work with. But when you're approaching the animation process, after you've done all the separating and the preparation and what have you, which is also not relevant in all types of animation. You have classical animation, which you just draw each frame, and it's like thing, and then you can do pretty messy lines. Of course, depends on the style that you're going for. Specifically, I found that in cutout animation, it does help to have pretty defined borders with things. Okay, so let's move on. We have the head, we have the neck, and we have the body. I want to take a bit of a look at the neck. Right, yes, that's what I thought. I noticed that earlier, here's a good example of a trial and error part. I noticed that earlier when I did the llama, oh, I cropped it. No. Here's a good example. Something that I will probably need to do again. Either that or improvise. That also happens. Alright. I noticed that earlier when I cropped, I thought about actually where it ends. You see this line in here? I probably took into account already that when I'll crop the neck of the llama, I will do something like this. But right now I missed it and I cropped it early. So there's a good chance that I will improvise a way to complete that line. But that is fine. Here's a good example of something that happens sometimes. Alright, let's continue. Soon we will have all the parts, since the llama is not a very complicated character. Let's use the curves again, because the curves are very convenient. Yeah, it happens sometimes. It's fine. It's part of the process. Okay. Now I'm gonna do this leg. You will see after I do this leg, I actually have a very good shortcut. There is a way to just do the other leg very quickly, because the other leg follows the same rules as the back leg, but you barely get to see it, so there's no need to worry. So again, how was your day in the meantime, fellows? While I'm doing this arduous task, I'll be more than happy to hear how you're doing. Okay, this is fine. Let's put it in the proper place. Like this. Okay. Let's put it over the body. Good. This will be called BF. BF leg. Right. Now the BF leg is a shirt that I use specifically because I'm also trying to think about several parts that will be a bit harder to define, about the back, the front, and what have you. So, F front, B back. Now, BF means it's the back leg, but it's the front. We see it. Sometimes these names can be a bit confusing as well, by the way. I noticed that I need to take into account my own pipeline in that regard, because sometimes I use different names. But in general, this is the method that I use. And like B leg will be the back. And the F leg, like front, which is this one, and the FB, etc. You'll see in a moment how this works. Right. So let it be F flag. And let's create another copy. New. I want to use the base. And now I'm going to create the front leg. Oh, no, let's use the path. Let's be smart. Right. Came out a bit messy. Don't like this. Let's go back. there's a lot of room for cleanup soon, you will see. But it's fine. Again, it's a part of the process. And like this. By the way, I will mention it as well in the Facebook post on our page, which I will link in the end. But just in case that I wasn't very clear, thank you very, very much for coming, everyone. It's a real joy, actually, seeing a lot more people and a lot more participation. Since we're just beginning, this is a very humbling experience. So thank you very much. Very, very appreciated. And with that, are you going to use spine for this? Not spline, spine. And yes, I will definitely use spine, and I will go over principles of working with spine, but not in this stream. This specific stream, like I will do it in a future stream, just not this one. This one, I just want to go over the principles and how I separate the character for animation parts. But I will go in one of the close streams over the way I work with spine and some good practices. And it's a very good way to show in general the practices of cutout animation. Self-reasons, steal knowledge for free. Yeah, that's called being a pro. I think I told you in one of our hangouts, steal like an artist. That's an actual proverb that you can totally use. So yes, very good. Steal away. Right. So this will be F, like. And now, let's get rid of this llama of the base. Oh, sorry, there's one thing that I want to do as well, that I still need the base llama, and that is the tail. And this little dramatic preparation. Right, okay, and shoot. All right. Now, despite this, despite this being a very repetitive method, I did find this, that like when I listed earlier, what the things that I want to make sure in the animation is that it really helps preserve the quality of the drawing and the style. In the previous stream, I remember I did this. I had this bit of a problem. I started to think in separate parts, but it distracted me from creating a drawing that I like. And rather than focus on the animation while I'm drawing, I just draw something that I love, something simple. And then I take my time and separate it later. I found it a bit healthier. Just wanted to go over it to get why I'm working this way. All right, and this will be the tail. Now, let's get rid of the base llama. Okie doke. This is almost a complete llama. We are missing the back though. So, in order to have our back, what we're gonna do is we're gonna duplicate this same method, use smart object, but this time we'll change the name, this FB, because it's going to be the back leg, and check what happens when we move it around. Whoop! Not perfect, but much faster than what we did, and we will go over it and clean it up in a second. And the beauty of it is that it's already almost ready to be like animated. Just need a bit of a touch up on the shading to make sure that it's still similar to this. You see there's like this little extra shade in the back because it's in the back. Now we don't have it. But it's okay. It's good enough for now. And now let's duplicate this. And back. Like. Alrighty. Good. Right. Let's change this mutation. Right. The F flag. Let's just make sure of a couple of things. Checking the order of the layers right now. And taking some of the layers that I don't need, that I see that are empty, things that I used to write earlier, except for the writing one. Right. Also call this line base, just so we remember what this is. And now let's do put all the parts in a file. We'll call it parts. You can even call it llama parts, just to be orderly. And so step 1 is complete. Awesome. All right. Can we animate it now? Not quite. Not yet. But we're getting close. Closer than anything. Now what's going on if I will take this to the animation software? Then this will be movable. This will be movable. See, we have a neck. Even though, like I said, we still need to do a bit of a fix there. And we have a leg that can be like, kick stuff. Cool. But now, like you saw, every time that I move these things, there's still a lot of stuff that are like in the way, still bits and pieces of the previous drawing. So what do? So what we do now is actually very straightforward. We go in. Thank you. Happy to hear this. I really hope this is like educational or somewhat entertaining at the very least. So what we do now is actually very simple. We have this entire bit. And what we're going to do two things. So we're going to do a bit of a cleanup. If I notice some areas that maybe don't really have to do with the body, you see in here, for example. You do need to have a bit of a sharp eye or experience to notice these kind of things. You will see that a lot of the time, it's like bits and places that will interrupt with the animation process that you best take care of early. Okay, oops, my bad. And you know what? Let's do it a bit smarter. And we'll go in here. And whoop. Okay. Just doing a bit of a cleanup. Yes, okay. No, not exactly. We'll see that I'm a bit experimenting in here. Because it's not so clear. Like, it is clear with the technical bit. Just a moment. Let's go back a step or two. Alright, you know what? Let's start. You'll see how I deal with this a bit of a more manual way. Because you'll see now we have a bit of a, oh, just a sec. See, we now have a bit of a situation. Alright. Now, so like this. There's a lot of place, by the way, for improvisation and a bit of changes and adjustments For example, now you see that I'm dealing with a bit of a problem. I'm trying to clean up something that I saw that bugged me. But I also see that when I'm doing this, I'm messing a bit with the structure of the body of the llama. And it's a bit of a pickle, but it's not too much. It's something very normal, I think, that you need to deal with, like when you're preparing stuff for animation. So let's see. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna use a bit of a part below here. I'm okay with changing a tiny bit of the structure for the sake of simplifying the process. Okay, so just a sec, take a sip of my coffee. Right, what I'm gonna do now is very simple. I'm gonna create a layer over top, a clipping mask layer, which means a layer that will only enable me to paint on top of this entire chunk. You'll see that if I'll do something in here, I can't go outside. All right. What I can do is use the same methods and the same colors. Taster's choice, by the way, for your question. This is very simple and not very strong coffee. In here it's like 10 p.m. so I don't want to be up too late. So I'm gonna take some brushes and I'm gonna paint over. I'm gonna create like another part from what I have, and now when I do the painting, I'm only going to focus on the part that I have in front of me. I'm not going to consider too much of what's going on outside, but I do think about these parts and these colors. You will see how this plays out in a moment. Okay, I'm gonna take the outlines and I will do like an overall outline because there's a good chance that when the part moves, you will still need to see the outline. Like if bits and pieces move quite a bit, then you will see the borders of each part. So it is good to still give it a bit of an outline. There is even completely legitimate to create a layer that is not clipping mask, but that is a bit more dangerous because there is a good chance that you will be out of the borders. For now, it's okay. This is enough. And then I'm going to do another layer behind it, under it. Same principle, it's a clipping mask layer. Now, I'm going to do something like this. I'm going to take a different brush that is a bit more relevant for this, and I'll slowly paint over these parts. Try to take into consideration maintaining and preserving the same qualities of drawing that I have right now. That also says about some of the colors. And this is a very free-form method. You will see that there's a lot of room for improvising, for thinking. It's perfectly fine if I use plenty of layers. All right. And part of the reason that it's fine to do this in like this supposedly messy way, so because it doesn't really matter, because this is a completely separate object from the rest of the llama. Like it doesn't mess the rest of the drawings. So we do like this. Remember, this is only the body. So we're also going to do a bit of a thingy like this, because I do know that there is a shading in here. So I'm gonna give it some room. Because this is a completely other layer, worst case, what we do now doesn't work properly, we can always go back. We can always change it and fix it a bit. Plus, we have a backup. We have an entire base for the llama. And you know what? I think that I will take care of the shading in here, because it might create a bit of a problem, the animation. So for now, decided, you know what? Let's simplify this a bit more. This might look completely incomprehensible at the moment, by the way. And this is fine. You will see how this plays out in just a moment. Okay, cool. Oh. Now, so we see that there is a bit of change. There is something that changed when thinking about the rest of the llama. There is a very good shot that I will fix this still. But now, when we fixed the entire thing with the body, check out what happens when we move the neck and the head. Let's move it. And now, okay, this works a bit better. This is like, you can imagine it animating a bit more. You see, this pose kind of makes sense. It's fine. So this is the overall process. You need to separate it to parts. Then you go into each part. You do a bit of a cleanup. You separate the part, but you preserve the important qualities of that part when you're thinking about the shadow and the light. Indeed. Yes. Like I said, it's a repetitive process. I won't lie, but it's okay. Alrighty. Now, one of the things that I do sometimes, if I'm not 100% sure how it's gonna come out, is that I drag out this little drawing. You see, when I double clicked it, it was like this. And I dragged it out and I look. And you'll see that if I'm doing like something new and I save it, it appears on the outside. So now it's very easy for me to see the effects of my drawing. Alright, and now, in here specifically, I will not add the outlines because this needs to be connected to the main body. It's not a border. It's something that is overlapping. So I will keep the way that, like, let's do this manually. I will keep the way that it blends with the body. Let's see. In here, I'll just use a hard round brush to make sure that it's fairly clean. And again, because the drawing is so simple, then like a simple style, and it's okay if it's not perfect. It's part of the reason that I don't always use curves. It's perfectly legit if you just play a bit. Also loosens up the hand, helps you have a bit of fun. Let's continue. Okay, now I'm not sure that I will go over the entire process with all the parts because it might come off as a bit boring, but I will do at least several more parts. And in here I'm also changing things, and you will see in a moment why. See, when I save this, it will start to play off a bit with what we have on the outside, and it will be a bit easier to create a shadow. I'll blend it a bit in here, blend it a bit in there. Worst case, I can always fix it. It's part of the advantages of working in a non-destructive manner. Okay, so like this. Okay, oh, getting there. Slowly. Any questions, by the way, up till now? I've just been yapping and yapping. Let's see. Here, this will help it blend a bit more smoothly. Okay. Let's see. There's a good chance that later on I will go in and just do a very specific cleanup to these like places, because I've been drawing in a very loose manner. Then you know, you want to make sure that it's clean. Okay, let's see. How did you even learn this animation stuff? Seems like totally different skill set than the actual drawing painting thing, but also cool. No. Okay, so again, thank you. And how did I learn this? Well, first thing, I'm not self-taught completely. I went to study animation for 4 years in Shah for Arts in Israel. And I learned a lot of the principles over there. But I do have some experience specifically in the cutout animation. Other than learning the entire basis for principles of animation in Minshall, I also I tried. I did a lot of testing and a lot of things. I looked at YouTube. I messed up quite a bit. It's a lot of trial and error and taking a look at any educational platform that you can find. I do think that it's something that you can learn, especially this part, which is very technical, which actually makes it much simpler to learn, in my opinion, than a lot of the more intuitive parts, like the animation process itself, you will see. But other than that, yeah, it's just a mixture of learning formally. Okay, let's go in here. Learning formally and some experience and self-tutoring. That's basically it. A lot of the things that I do, I don't know if I could have done as efficiently up until a very short time ago, actually. If you saw my Facebook feed, that you saw that I'm trying a lot of new things, and also that the animation quality of a lot of the things that I did was not very good up until recently. And even now, I'm still learning a lot and improving. So yeah, so that's the long answer. Mixture of formal education and self-tutoring. Okay. Now, a lot of the way, by the way, to understand and figure out how this entire thing will play out, like I say that I see which part will overlap, etc. That's I think mostly experience, because I just had a lot of times when it didn't really work as I planned. Here, for example, I'm facing a bit of a dilemma, because I want to separate the back leg, but the shading when I move it won't be perfect. You see, in here, see when I move this, and this will look a bit weird. So I'll need to see how this works. It's amazing. It depends actually about how I work with or without music. I almost never work with music actually, specifically music. I don't know, I just get into music too much. I do listen to YouTube listen to podcasts and YouTube thingies, but I'm not sure that it's a very good habit. I actually, when I need to focus, really focus, then almost always I'll be like it with a very it will be quiet. Like I won't listen to almost anything. I'll just I'm almost managing like a dialogue similar to how I'm talking to you. I'm like I need to explain to myself what I'm gonna do because as you see it's quite complicated. And here, for example, we have a very good example of something not working very well. So let's see, how do we do this? How do we solve this pickle? Okay, let's erase this. Let's see what went wrong in here, or how we can fix this. All right, I have an idea. We're gonna try something. Because a lot of the problem comes with seeing how separated a part is, let's try to use the borders as a way. Let's do this on another layer. Let's try to use the borders of the shadow as a way to distinguish it completely. Let's see how this works. We'll go, this is a bit of an experiment. Okay, so it's not sure that it's gonna work. But I think this is actually something that's good that I'm streaming because it shows how I deal with some problems that I'm not too sure how to do. And this looks very bizarre. So I'm not gonna do this. Yeesh. If worst comes to worst, I'll solve this later on and let you know how I did it. It definitely does. You know what? Let's go back to this soon. Right now it's a bit tricky. There is a good chance that I will modify the body and the leg. We will give it a shot soon. It's not very urgent. There are a couple of things that I want to go with you before we go. These streams are not very long. They will probably get longer and longer because I see that there are a lot of things that I'm going over. Okay, there's one thing that I want to focus on before we finish the stream or go into this place where I see that it's best to end. And it's the part of replacement. Okay? So, what is replacement? Replacement is when some drawings can be something that's maybe not worth animating so hard. So you draw it. Okay, sorry, had a bit of a blabber in here. Replacement is when you create literally a replacement for a part. When in a certain frame, for example, this llama needs to spit. So instead of using this head, this drawing, I will draw an alternative to this head, and I will show you how I approach the entire subject in a moment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a version of the head that is like here, and let's make this a bit smaller, just a sec. I'm going to draw a version of the head that is something more or less like this. And it's going to be like the spit. All right. It's going to be something quite similar to this. And it's much easier for me to draw a new head that is in this pose than actually like rigging his lips and his cheek and whatever in order to make it go to this pose. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to create a new head. New smart object via copy, like we did earlier. Llama can spit destructor beam. Indeed. And we'll call it head spit. Okay. Now, let's go inside. Let's play with this a bit. I'll give myself a bit of a room to work. I'm gonna play with this file a lot more than the previous files. You will see that I'm like I'm gonna create a sketch, and I'm gonna see how I'm going to create this replacement. And the awesome thing is that I have the basis in here already, so I can sample colors. I can work with use with certain places as indicators. I can do the line art, etc., etc. Okay, I'm gonna take the llama that I have, gonna make it quite faint, and now I'm gonna draw a sketch. This is a rough, big sketch. So, and I'm gonna use all the parts that I have as indicators. Now the ears will be separate parts, but let's do them anyway in here because it will help me understand this a bit. Okay, and now let's see how does a llama looks when it spits. Let's see if I can take a look at some reference. Join me in Googling. Now I'm gonna go with my intuition for the most part, but this might be interesting. See if there is a bit of a reference here. Llama spit. No, not a video. Oh, this is perfect. Okay, so let's analyze this a bit. So the lips are really moving forward, and there's this nice little gap in here. So let's try to emulate this. So we have this going back to the picture every once in a while. This shoop. I'm gonna do the mouth very short because it's like moving forward, like trying to think about how it will feel. All right, and we'll do something like this, and And here I'm not going to work on the cheek because the cheek is not really existent in this version. And right, this is very much a spitting llama. Very simple, but effective. Yeah. Okay. So let's see if there's any part that I want to emphasize a bit more. Okay, so there are some certain parts that I would like to emphasize because it's attacking. Let's make it a bit angrier or something similar to that. This might not work, but let's try. Okay. No. Okay. Looks a bit angry. It's fine. Okay. I'll just do like this. And we'll do like, we'll use the curve that I already started. This part. Okay, cool. Right. So now I know what sort of a replacement I'm going to draw. I'm going to use this sketch as a base, and I'm going to work with the exact same method that I created the rest of the drawings for all the general method of drawing, which is just creating a line, bit of a cleaner version. See? Here I will start with the same base. It's a bit of a tracing in here. Oop. Sorry if I'm getting a bit quiet. I'm trying to focus on doing this right. Let's see. If you're hearing a bit of laughter from somewhere around the house, that's my family watching TV. Having a blast. Thanks. Yeah, it was actually a very it was I'm not sure if it was a very conscious decision to make them so bulging, but it's a drawing style that I really like. It's very easy to read, and it cutifies everything immediately. So, okay. Now, let's start to get into new parts. Here I can improvise quite well. Soon I will finish the stream. We will continue. Maybe I'll do a part 2 of this. I won't finish. I do hope that up till now, either way, you got to catch on a lot of the principles of how it works, because it's tricky, but it's not as complex as it looks. It's just a lot of just things to remember more than anything. Still, I hope it like. Oh, let's do it like this. Yeah, thank you. How did it go? Like explain a lot of the mysteries of how it worked, because, like I said, it's not too much to it actually. It's just repetitive more than anything. Okay. Now, let's see if I can use the llama head as a base. Let's try. Let's try to keep life a bit easier for me to see what a shortcut. Okay, cool. Let's see. So different. Thank you. It's my pleasure. I know that it can sometimes be a bit confusing, and I'm trying to keep things fairly simple, but it's, let's see, wait a minute. Oh, whoops. Yes. But yeah, it's like it's a lot. It's the method eventually teaches you a lot about how to work, and when you try a certain way of working, then like you saw, trial and error is a big part of it, and a bit of mileage, but also just thinking and planning, planning ahead, a lot of things really helps. Okay, so we're gonna do like this. And here, just this is like a shortcut, just making use of what I already have to ease the process of actually creating the new replacement. I will go back to the master file soon, and you will see what happened actually. Okay. See, because the line art is relatively thick, it's really, really nice because it's very easy to create the filling. Okay. Very cool. Let's do this. One of the things that I'm going to do already, because it's something that's going to happen in the other head cleanup as well, is that I will delete the ears, because I'm going to create the ears in the same method that I showed you. Just duplicating the head, separating the ears, cropping them, and everyone is happy. Happy we went with the llama, by the way. It's a very interesting case. Also proved a bit more challenging in places that I did not expect, which is cool. It's a very cool thing to stream specifically. Okay. This I don't need. Also don't need. And here specifically, I'm gonna, you know what, I'll save the shading for another day, because I'm gonna use a very similar method to what I did. And that's a bit time consuming. That'd look good. Thank you. Let's see. Just a sec. Oh. Well. Just this. I see order. Order. Head. Sneeze. Or not sneeze, sorry. Spit. I got lost in my own story about it being a chewing llama. Okay, let's take this color. And let's color this. Let's just see the shading thing later then. Color quick. Here. Awesome. Yeah, the replacement method it's specifically very good for animation, but it's also, you see, there's a lot of the basic principles of drawing involved, which makes it very like it makes sense. I have a question. Do you want to see like a very quick process of the shading, like a speedy version of it, like a refresher? Anyway, just in case, sketch. Yes, okay. That's a definite capital yes. That means you see yes if you have time. Okay, yes, we do have some time. So just a moment, I just really like this and I want to save this before I mess with the file a bit more. Let's see. This will make for a good thumbnail for the stream. Llama achoo. Right. So let's go over the shading. I'm gonna take a bit of help from my old file in here. What I did back then, I set up specific shading colors. Okay? This is something that I did in the previous file. After a bit of trial and error, you will see how I use them in a moment. Let's go in here and let's copy them, the other file. This will help me a bit. We don't need the master file thingy, yeah, we can't save it actually. It's there's no need to worry about it. Right. So we have some colors. Specific to 10 brush size isn't really relevant. It's relevant for the other file. What we're gonna do, these colors are gonna be used in each layer that are relevant for the let's go into the color of this. You'll see that I have in here 3 layers. One is set to multiply. This is a shadow layer. And let's use the other head as a good example of it. And I will see you how I apply it to the new head. If I only go to the fill color, then let's take down all the things. This is what we begin with. And then we do like a bit of fill, specific areas that I know are in one set color. And then I do a shadow layer, set to multiply, a cool color, but a relatively light cool color, because multiply makes all the if you paint on a multiply layer, you see the setting, just a second, here. When I selected the layer, see here, it's set to multiply. If you set the layer to multiply, then all the colors under that layer, all the layers under that layer, blah. Explaining these things with words is messy. Will be darker. It will sample the relative color behind it. Will be. I just explain it. I'll just demonstrate it. It's so much more complicated saying it than demonstrating. I'm sorry. So let's go to the heads bit. Here we have a multiply layer. It is a minute. Okay. Right now, it's empty. Now, let's sample this color. And we'll start shading. What I'll think about when I do the shading with this layer is basic like volumes. I'm trying to think about places that have a certain volume, like their spheres or their cylinders, etc. When basically the light comes from around here. Wait a minute. From around here. That's how I decided that the light setup will be for most of these animals. So if the light comes in here, shadows are in the back, or at the bottom. You need to think a bit 3D for this. It's not the easiest thing to do, and it takes some time and experience, but it's also not very complicated if you use simple blocks and shapes. Okay? So, think about these kind of things, these places. You know, I have the brows, and the brows create a bit of a shadow as well. But now you see when I use this light bluish color on the multiply layer, it makes all the layers underneath it relatively darker, but not too dark. It's a dark that makes kind of sense in the if you think that if it's in a generally lit area. Okay. See, it's a very quick process, relatively. Here there is a bit of a shadow. Not only is the mouth covering it, but I did keep a bit of a cheek. I pushed it too far. Now, like I said, I'm not going really deep into the meat of it. Just trying to think about places that it makes sense. There will be at least a tiny bit shaded, and I also take a look at what I did previously. For example, I took a look in here, see that I did the hair. I did note the ears, so I will do this. I will add a bit of a shadow on the ears. And there are here, all the area of the mouth, etc. Okay, cool. So let's go back. Add a bit of shadow. Again, this is part of the reason that I went with a very, very simple style with Planet Defense, because it's much easier to understand how you paint the shadows and the lights, etc. And oh, I said that I will take in account this area, because in here there are gonna be ears. Alright. A bit of a shadow in here as well. Okay. This is very basic, but it's also efficient. Did a bit more of a shadow in here. No, not crucial, actually. All right. Next up, we have a lighting layer. There's basic light coming from above, but I do want to pick certain areas that will be extra lighty. Like it helps define the borders a bit more. So I'm gonna take a light color, a light and warm color this time. I'm gonna paint a bit of a border in here. This, the cool thing is that the contrast really helps. The fact that you have both. Like if you have only one, that it's very hard to see the light part and the dark part. When you have both parts, both light and dark, then it actually emphasizes each one separately, which is cool. I hope that made a bit of sense. I'm not sure that that sentence was very intelligible, but let's see. Other parts. Again, let's take a look at the previous head. Let's just take a look at a bit of what I did. Cheeks, the lower lips, a bit of the hair and the ears. Okay. Do notice the blah. Sorry. Right. I do notice that because I'm working on a separate drawing and file, then no, that's not really good. Yeah, it's a very, very simplified but effective way to draw. And it makes use of very interesting principles, actually. I will use a bit of a bigger brush because I saw that I worked in a much rougher way with the previous, with the head. And I do want to make sure that they look a bit similar. Soon we will go back to this master file, like to the big file, and we will see what transpired and how we're going to make use of this new head. I think that will be the end of the stream. Okay. So let's do like this. And this layer specifically, I won't touch it. We'll keep it the same. This layer is something that's supposed to represent the gradual passing of light to shadow. And it's something that I did overall on the drawing. Now the reason that I'm not gonna touch it, but I will demonstrate it next time that I'll draw an entire animal, is that I'm going to, because I really want to maintain the feeling that it's the same head, only in a different posture. In here, for example, if I turn it on, now you'll see when I turn both of them on and off, it's like achoo, achoo, achoo. Okay, cool. Now that we're done with this, let's delete this head and the base color, because we're basically done with creating the replacement. Sorry if I make your eyes burn a bit. One of the things that I can't stand about Photoshop is the background. I understand why they did it, the squares, but it's driving me nuts. Makes your eyes bleed. Okay. Now let's crop it back. Now that I explored, sketched, etc. Let's see But we got a replacement. And so when he's gonna spit, he's gonna do something like chew. And that's how you prepare for a really complex animation that you really want to change all the face. I think that this method is very like much more time saving actually than going, like I said, through the whole process of rigging the face and whatnot. And look, he's kind of nice, except the fact that he doesn't have ears right now. It's kind of cool. Okay, thank you. So let's just bring you back to place. Okay. All right. So I think I'm gonna continue to fix some of the problems, especially the leg thing that I'm gonna think, and I will inform you on how I manage this thing later. And I'll show you the end result very soon. And one of the next things we're going to do, either with the llama or with one of the other animals, is that, like I said, we're going to take it into spine. We're going to show you how exactly do you prepare for proper animation. And basically that is it. I hope that you had a lot of fun, that wasn't as boring as I'm afraid sometimes that it was. And of course, like and subscribe. Feel free to go visit our Facebook page for a bit more information. I'll just link it in here in the chat. And let's do here. And I will see you guys very soon. There is a good shot that I will just do this every Tuesday. It's pretty convenient for me. It's the middle of the week. I know that a lot of the time you're at home, and that's about it. So I'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much for joining the stream. It was awesome talking to you and writing a bit and having a bit of questions, and it's a bit of a joy for me. So again, thank you, and have an awesome night. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.